before we get into the Bronze Age, we have the Golden Age. Not so much because the comics were, these incredibly well-written things. I'm not saying they weren't, but more because of the proliferation of comics at the time. Just no other period of time where you have comics like they do, and this is really thanks to the boom of superheroes. Transition that into the Silver Age, where you definitely have less, but you also have comics that are confronted with a base that's saying, look, these need to be a bit more wholesome. These need to be kid-friendly. Once we get to the Bronze Age, we get a little bit more grounded in terms of the overall plotting that we would see from comic to comic, and be it superhero or independent across the board. But I guess the big question that we got to answer before we get on too far is, when does the Bronze Age start? For myself, I've always started the Bronze Age in 1971 with Superman 233. That's a January comic, and it officially begins the Bronze Age of comic books across the board. So just some of the staples, and wanted to also highlight some of the keys, some key comics to look out for. In addition to Green Lantern 76, and then going on, the Bronze Age also reintroduces some types of comics that had pretty much been put on ice for a long period of time. And so we would see horror comics come back into play again. I'm not just yet 1971, but we would see that come back again. You'd also see occult comics come back again, with certain characters like, a Marvel side, you'll see Damon Hailstrom with the Son of Satan. On DC side, you would see those horror books with the House of Secrets and the House of Mystery. This is a great cover done by Neil Adams. And if you look at it, it looks like Swamp Thing. Then you see the Man-Thing come out. So you see those type of things. You see that type of stuff going on. I see more relevant, like, as already stated, you see more relevant storytelling, things about the environment. Somebody coming out and telling Green Lantern, what did he ever do for Black people? Things of those nature. Wild stories with Lois Lane becoming Black, because that's comic books were trying to tap into what was going on within the pulse of the country and the world. We would see stories that would reflect, feminist movement. Once that, really started to wind up, stories had more of a permanency. If you look at stories that were going along with, say, like Spider-Man, for instance, if somebody died, there was a really big push to keep them dead. Gwen Stacy dies, she's dead. Green Goblin dies, he's dead, at least for a longer period of time. We would see that correlation. If blaxploitation was popular, you got Luke Cage. If feminism was popular, Wonder Woman got her powers back, and you would see Ms. Marvel. If Gung Fu was popular, hey, you got Richard Dragon, and you got Shang-Chi, Master of Kung. Stuff like that. They all make up what's the Bronze Age, which I think, and these dates have changed, unfortunately, because I always used to put the Bronze Age from 1971 to 1986. And that was the Bronze Age for a very long period of time. I do some research and find out, no, they decided to shorten it in 1884, and then you have this Copper Age that comes in. And those dates, it used to be there were two different dates. There were the dates for the readers and the dates for, like, comic collectors, comic sellers. And so for comic sellers, you had all the, Copper Age and stuff. But for readers, Bronze Age is up until 1986, and then everything after that is the Modern Age. And they decided we had to throw one more metal in there. We had to throw one more metal in there, which always makes me look at, well, what they're going to do now, because you've had more years. The Modern Age is gone for more years than any of the other previous ages have come. And what are you going to do with this? What are you going to go from there? But yeah, this was over 15 years of really just great driven stories. And some ups and definitely some ups and downs when you come along to it. You have the DC implosion, that definitely changes how they go about doing comics. You have the rumor and the near, if it was ever going to happen, the near possibility that Marvel was going to publish DC Comics, which produces some stuff that we would see later on, whether people realized it or not, dealing with Superman. So it's a really great age, but it's also an age that's very much overlooked. A lot of people, unfortunately, and this is readers tend to do it more than comic collectors, but they just conflate the Silver Age and the Bronze Age together. That's just one big age altogether. It's not. The stories are not quite the same. The art is different. The directives tend to be different. it's, it's an age unto itself, filled with a lot of great classic comics, great covers. If you're a collector like myself, great books to look out for. And, if you're just somebody who's into reading, there's just a whole bunch of really off the wall stuff, books of gravitas, books of off the wall imagination. Just a really good time for comics, but very much overlooked because for the most part it's conflated with the Silver Age. So I think that's good for our inaugural episode. So we'll see everybody back for part 2 when we're looking at the further years past 1971, and we'll definitely keep you in the know with more key comics that you can look out for this particular age as we go into Spinner X Deep Dive of the Bronze Age.